Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another block for you. This one is called the Kansas Star Block, and here it is. It is made strictly with square and a square units. That's all there is here. Just two different colorways. The centers of some are print and the centers of the others are light, so gives a different look. These dark corners on the four of these side half square triangles form a star. So you can see the star points right here. And so that makes it pretty interesting. So I hope you'll stay with me and I'll show you how to make the Kansas Star Block. Okay, here are the fabrics that you're going to need to make the Kansas Star Block. For A, you're going to need 5 4.5-inch squares. B is 4 4.5-inch squares. C is 12 2.5-inch squares, and D is 18 2.5-inch squares. And if you want to, you can draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of the C and the D squares, and that's all you need to do to prep for this. There's no trimming down needed on this one because we're going to be sewing all square and a square blocks. So I'll adjust the camera and we'll get started working on the Kansas Star Block. For the Kansas Star Block, like I said, we're just going to be making square and a square units. So we have 9 of those to make, and I have 4 main fabrics here. I've got this one, which will be in the center of the block, and then these 4 will be in the corners of the block, and then these will be on the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the A blocks, and they are going to use the D squares to make these blocks. So for square and a square units, you've got 4 corners that you're going to sew on them, 4 squares to form the corners. And I'm going to do 1 on each opposite corner, and then I will trim and sew, and then I'll sew the ones on the other 2 corners. And then you can also chain piece all these together, which I'm going to do this one first, and then I will chain piece all the others together so that you kind of see what this looks like. And I haven't drawn a diagonal line on here. What I'm doing is following the tape here that I have on the bed of my machine. I'm just keeping the point of the square right on the left side of that tape, and that'll give me a straight line to follow. And I am still using my vintage machine. So I'm using leaders and enders here. And let's do the one on the opposite corner. Let me trim off this leader, and then I'm going to trim these off, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then we've got half of the square and a square unit done. So I'm going to press these back, and then we'll do the other 2 corners. So here it is all pressed, and I'm going to sew 2 more corners. Now there is a foundation paper that you can buy to do this if you are more comfortable with that. And here's the last corner. Okay, so we'll trim these. Okay, so here will be the square and a square unit. So I'm going to go ahead and press these two corners. Okay, so here we go. There's a square and a square unit. So I have 8 more of these to make, and then we'll put them all together. So I'm going to go ahead and chain piece these to kind of speed things up. And so this one is the center, and then these two will be the corners, and then I'll do the ones that go on the sides. And those will get, the B's will go with the C's. So they'll be different. Okay, so I have all of the square and a square units done, and this is the one I'm going to put in the center, and then these prints here are going to go in the outer corners. And this is kind of a directional print because it has a stripe in it, but the others are not directional, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, and then the ones with the cream center and the red outside corners are going on the sides of the center block. Now this print is directional, and I didn't really think about that while I was sewing them on, so I didn't get them sewn all the same direction. This one is, but the other three are not, so I'm really not going to worry about that at this point. I'm just going to go ahead and sew these together into rows, and then I'll sew all the rows together, and then the Kansas star block will be done. Okay, I'm going to sew the first piece to each row together, and then I'll add the third piece, and there are points to match, so I'm going to place my pin through the point of one block and then through the point of the bottom block here, or unit, and that just gets the points all lined up, and then I'll replace the pin like this, and then we'll sew these two units together. And if you can stitch to the right side of the point where the seams cross right there, you won't blunt off your point. So there are going to be points on every single piece that you sew together. And this has been kind of my go-to method of matching points like this. Now these seams here will lay up against each other. They won't nest well because the seams are pressed the same direction. But as long as I have that point lined up, we should be good to go. Okay, now I'm going to pin the rows together. Now I've pressed my seams all open because there's a lot of layers right here where all these points come together. So I went ahead and pressed my seams open, but I still want to match them up. And I want to match my points. So I'm still going to do some pinning here. Okay, here's the completed block. I think that turned out pretty well. Lots of points to match, and other than that, you know, it's just sewing on corner squares to all of your main squares. So not too difficult of a block, and I think it looks really interesting with the red and the pink and the cream colors in there. So you know, the only thing that is directional that really stands out is this piece here in the center. So you can just place that in your quilt however you want. So I hope you'll give this block a try. Okay, that is it for the Kansas Star block. I think it turned out really well. Just take your time with matching your points on this one. Otherwise, it's really pretty simple sewing, which is sewing the corner squares onto each one of your larger squares. So that's about all there is to that one. So, and yet it's, you know, pretty simple, but it makes a really interesting block. So I hope you'll give this one a try. Now, if you like this video, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.